All right, happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to the Let's Do Video live stream. Now, first thing I have to say, Kelly, did you get a haircut or something? You look a little different.
It's the makeup,
It's a
you
makeup.
know. It's
I'm
the
sure our
contouring that you
regulars
do.
will notice something's different. Kelly is busy today with a work project, so I'm here with my guest, I decided to upgrade him from the guest seat to our co-host seat. I've known Carl. This is Carl Harvell from AVer. I've known Carl for a long time, old friend, and time to catch up with AVer.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's good to see you. It's really is, and I love this. It really this tricks me every time. It's like, oh, I'm hanging out with Carl.
I know
This is great.
I'm figuring out which way to turn to look at you
Yeah,
there because
it's the
yeah,
opposite.
yeah, exactly.
But it's a Friday, so let's get out of this. What is this? Our talk show set. Let's go somewhere fun. Let's hang out.
A
Here we
formal,
go.
formal setting there.
You
Oh, there
know,
we go.
I was hoping that if the conventions start happening again, we could do this for real. But now I'm getting kind of scared because the news is getting bad again, and I'm starting to think maybe we won't be able to be doing this for real. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's been hit and miss. By the way, for the background, I can't prepare it, so
Well, yeah,
there you go.
let's have some. There we go. Get us some martinis. Let's get some appies.
It's
There we
12
go.
o'clock somewhere. There
Um,
we go.
So I'm
Yeah,
still
no,
trying to
it's
figure out if I'm
it's
going to Enterprise Connect and Infocom. I'm a maybe on both of those. Are you guys going?
Oh, do you know what? So I plan on being there. I'm going to walk the show around. There's some exciting news that we're going to come out with some partners that we have, and so some new technology that we're happy to kind of come out with. I mean,
Mm.
because well, just to tie into your question that you had earlier, as far as what's happening with the pandemic and how things are going along, and it's funny because you're seeing a very big jump in customer needs right now, especially in regards to like image manipulation. Almost like what you did here. You got our images and you kind of put them into a nice little you know virtual kind of setup there. And I think you're going to see a lot of that coming out of Enterprise Connect. But are people going to be there to actually show that technology? I don't know.
Yeah, that
Because
kind
it's
of
funny
a
because like I said, I'm talking with a lot of different vendors right now, and I'm talking with a lot of partners. And every time I ask them, "Hey, are you going to be at Enterprise Connect?" They're like, "Yeah, I plan on being there." But it's a big question mark if my extended team is going to be there. And so, with that in mind, I think it really does depend on stats of how many hospital rooms are going to be occupied. I guess I don't know.
yeah. I saw a thing, and not to be fear mongering or anything, but in Orlando, they're asking people to use less water, to not water their lawns and wash their cars because the water treatment plants require oxygen, bottled oxygen, and the hospitals need all the oxygen now, so they don't have oxygen for the water treatment plants. So
Interesting.
that so when you hear that kind of stuff, I'm thinking, well, it's still a month away, so I'm not going to say no yet because I really want to. I really, I was one of those people who were like, I'm okay with isolation. I'm okay with staying home. I like being virtual, but I'm ready to go back. I'm ready to see people at the convention again. But it is still kind of scary. And I guess that ties into a bigger question I have for you. When I first started, working with Aver and talking to you, it was
Mhm.
very pre-pandemic, and the big focus was offices and meeting rooms. These were, most
Oh
of your
yeah.
products, not all. You had some things for home offices, but most of the focus, your premier products, were the meeting room cameras, the office supplies, and over the last year and a half, everyone's been focusing on, well, let's if we're all being on camera from home, we want to look good. Let's get some stuff for the home offices. Now I feel like we're back and forth because we're going back to the office. No, we're not. Yes, we are. Some of us are.
Yeah.
Some of us aren't. What are your customers asking from you? They're saying, "Help us out. We're all home now. Get us the home cameras." They're saying, "We're getting back to the office. What do you got for office cameras?" Is it a little bit of both?
It's funny because you ask that question to various customers, and the response is always different. I mean,
Mm,
it's you go to the corporate side, and I would say since last year, all the IT administrators, architects, directors in IT, they were saying, "Hey, how are we going to redo our conference rooms?
mhm.
Uh, do we do we put it in like we did traditionally with a camera head at the end, and kind of just let everybody just sit in place. And funny enough, when you talk to people from Texas, Florida, all the other places where they don't have as much restriction, they're all about that. They were into the scenario where, hey, finally we let people work from home. But now we're more lax in our work from home scenarios. So we're going to continue just outfitting our conference room the same way we did before. But instead of, now everybody having to come into the office, now we have those one or two people that can work from the home office. So they're implementing video, and they want to outfit every conference room with a camera, just to help those small crews that work from home every once in a while. So, that's the kind of answers you get from them. You talk to other big corporations that really worry about lawsuits, and like for instance, from what I heard, Google started letting people back in, but then there was an outbreak, and so they said, okay, well, you know what? They're following protocols, and they said, okay, we're going to shut down this building or that building. This is all hearsay, by the way, but large corporations, they're being a little bit more cautious, and so they want to implement strong social distancing protocols. And from what I'm hearing, they really want to ensure that social distancing is enforced within conference rooms, that conference rooms do not get overoccupied. And so whereas a medium-sized conference room or large conference room that would hold 30 or 40 people, they're going to cut that down by a third. And the other question is, how can you help us ensure that people are actually keeping a safe distance? So those are the types of scenarios that you come in with large corporations. But that actually helped fuel some other technological enhancements that I was talking about before, which was, well, I got a big conference room. I got 3 people in there, and now they're like at different points of the conference room.
How do you get them all on camera?
Yeah, how do you get them all on camera? And that's where, you probably saw with Zoom coming out with their smart gallery view, where you could actually crop images and kind of mush people together and put them in a scenario like we are right now, where people are kind of right next to each other. It's weird because when you talk to the vendor providers out there, they want these features, but it takes processing power to do that. And if everybody enabled that, their cloud processing is going to skyrocket. And so now they're kind of asking camera vendors, well, can you do this at the edge? And I think this is where we kind of like grab the torch and be like, yeah, let's see what we can do. And so for us, we are heavily looking into that image manipulation, but doing it on the camera side.
Yeah, I love the fact that sometimes when there's a problem with video, we just sort of ignore the problem. Like the eye contact problem, right? We haven't figured out the eye contact problem. We're all pretending it's not a problem for now till someone else solves it. But it's not that bad. As long as you put the camera near where you're looking, it's not terrible.
Yeah.
But the problem with framing people in a meeting room, everyone's acknowledging it's a problem to the point that there's so many different approaches. I don't know what's the right approach yet. Some are going with well, first of all, do you do it in the cloud or do you do it in the camera? Some are doing it in camera, some are doing cloud. Then there's how do you do it? Some are doing, like we said with Zoom, cropping people out and putting them together. Some of them are doing active speaker. The camera's smart enough to know who's talking and just zoom in on that person. But then, how fast, if someone else starts talking, do you zoom right away to them? Do you zoom to them slowly? There's a lot of different ways to do that. Some just zoom out and get everyone, and then just make them bigger in your Zoom Brady Bunch. They would just make that. I think Pexip has it set so that a meeting room with 3 people in it gets a bigger box in the Pexip Brady Bunch setup than a person with just one window. So everyone's head winds up being about the same size. It's a really clever, unique solution to it. And we're so new at this that I don't know what the right ones, 5 years from now, we're going to look back and say, this approach was the right one. Now we're all doing it that way. But at this time, we're trying so many different things and there's no right answer. And it's kind of fun, but it's cool that everyone's working on it.
Well, and it's funny because, we, like you said, 5 years, when I look back 7 years, I was working on Polycom. I was the video network engineer over there, and I was implementing the RMX bridges and all that kind of stuff. And
remember the RMX.
those old MCUs that were on premise. I mean, when you were to click on the change layout buttons on there, man, it would, you click the change layout button and you get a pop-up of like 20 different types of layouts that you could possibly have on an MCU. And, you would only use 3 or 4. But when you talk with other people, they would say like in Russia, for instance, it's very important that the highest ranking person that was in the either government or thing is on top because they really cared about positioning on the layout. So, I mean, but as an example, those are the types of things where it's you don't want to give too many options to end users because they'll get, paralysis by all the different choices. But there's so many different ways you could do it. And hopefully we find the right one.
Yeah. Well, there's enough of us out there
This is
testing
where I
it.
use you and I give you demo products and beta products. Be like, hey, Dave, what do you think?
Well, I'm not, back in the old days, I would have been worried about it because, it's hard to decide what's going to be the right one. But now we have millions of people using this stuff. They're going to tell us,
Yeah,
the market will
and that's
decide.
exactly it. That's exactly it.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So you're saying one of the things I caught from what you just said was what I'm hearing from a lot of people, which is it's the opposite of what I instinctually thought. If we're going to a hybrid workplace now, so instead of going to the office 5 days a week, everyone goes in 3 days a week at different times. If there's less people at the office, we need less video cameras. There's less meeting rooms. There's less crowding. There's less, and it's actually the opposite. We need more cameras. You just said before, we need a camera in every room because we're going to have smaller groups in each room. People need to spread out. The 10-person meeting room is now a 3-person meeting room. There's a lot more 3-people teams than there are 10-people teams. So we need a lot more rooms, and everyone can sit spread out. And what's great is the solutions that you guys were working on before the pandemic kind of work, because what we were looking for at that time, we were looking for the huddle room thing. We're saying we don't want a $20,000 camera. We want a $2,000 to $5,000, that kind of range, so that we could afford it for our small teams for these little tiny huddle rooms. Well, we're not huddling anymore. Now they're social distancing rooms, but we still want that. We want, I want one really or 2 really expensive, great rooms for my executive meeting rooms. I need 100 of these for all my working teams, so they got to be affordable. And if we just cross out the word huddle, the stuff we were working on pre-pandemic is really perfect. We kind of got lucky that our development was going in the right direction.
Yeah, and it's one of the types of scenarios where, I mean, like I was saying before, once you start going down the route of image manipulation, in other words, doing the camera image could actually, figure out how many people are in the room. And well, I don't want to say who those people are because it's not something where we're actually doing like facial recognition or authenticating somebody on their face, but to know that there's 1 or 2 people in the room, but then couple that with another camera at a different angle, being able to have those 2 cameras talk to one another, how many people are in the room, and send do more with that as far as, once you crop the image, once you get the image onto person A, we'll have that work in conjunction with another camera to say, well, those 2 cameras are working together, but this camera has a better shot, better angle. Can that camera take over and feed it back to the service provider?
It's becoming a little bit Hollywood. I mean, it's
well, so this is where I would like AI to go is, all the decision makers that people would have in the back of Hollywood, like at sporting events, have all that done automatically, and sent through.
That's what I'm thinking. So, a friend of mine from high school is actually was one of the editors for The Office, the TV show, The Office. I love. It's one of those sitcoms you could just watch over and over and over again. and if you ever watch it, the camera's always on whoever you want to be looking at. It's just something that what sitcoms do, and they have, and it actually makes sense for the discussion because it's an office, and they have a lot of discussions in the meeting room, and the boss is standing at the front of the meeting room, and when the boss is talking, the camera is on the boss, and when there's people who are sitting down to have questions, the camera pans over, and if it's 2 or 3 people, it's wide, and if it's just one person, and that's just the way Hollywood is, but it's human beings making that. It's my friend Dave in the editor's booth making those decisions. We need a mini Dave in your camera who's smart enough to say, this is what the remote people are going to want to look at.
Exactly. And all of those actions, all of those decisions, like I said before, the service providers want us to make those decisions in the camera itself. So stuff that, it's now everything I'm talking about right now is future type stuff that, I mean, I've heard other competitors talk about it and things like that. But as far as where the market is going, and video conferencing in general, that's kind of where it's attempting to grow or going to. So
But the one thing
I
that we
look
all
forward
agree
to it.
on is that people shouldn't be having to do this. That's the way we used to do. We used to
Oh,
have something called
exactly.
far end camera control, which is like it's a four-letter word, FECC. That's a four-letter word in the industry, far end camera control. And we used to, when you sat in a video conferencing room, you'd have a remote control device that could control the other person's camera in their meeting room, which no one would want to do. I'm going to control your camera. What you would do is say, I can't see you, you're too small. Can you fix it? Use foreign camera control. What? No, no one ever used it. It
And
was
it was always like a
complicated. It was
half a second
expensive.
behind.
Oh, yeah,
So
oh yeah,
every
yeah.
time you zoomed in, it was like next thing you know, you're like the
Yeah,
crop
yeah,
image. Like
yeah, you try to pan a little bit to the right, and you'd be looking at the window because it would turn too fast or too
it was
slow,
just,
and there was
yeah,
the
exactly.
delay. It was so hard to control, and no one was good at it, and no one was comfortable with it, and no one used it, and we all just had compromised meetings because of it. So at least everyone is agreeing, whether we're not sure if it should be the camera that does it, or the cloud that does it, or panning, or tilting, or creative cropping. Don't ask me to do it. Don't ask the people to do it.
Oh yeah.
So let's get into the second part of our discussion. We know what the market wants. We're not sure exactly, but we know the market is going to want a lot more cameras. When the pandemic ends, we're not just going to all go back to the office and throw out the cameras. We're going to be hybrid. There's always going to be people working at home. So every
Yeah.
time I talk to you, you have something new. And it's been a little bit while since we talked, so you have to have. I don't want to put you on the spot. If you say no, we don't have anything, I'll be embarrassed. But anything new coming out from you guys? Any new camera models that you want to share with our viewers?
We had just come out with a new series of products, and they kind of been out for about a month or two, but they just got recently certified with Microsoft and Zoom.
Nice.
Here's an example. I'm on one right now, which is our video bar version of it. So if I were to kind of bring up two little samples of it, but here is the Cam 130, and then here is the VB 130. They're very small, lightweight, uh, a huddle room, small conference room, mainly personal work from home devices. The video bar, the one I'm talking on right now, I'm using the microphone array on it and the camera. But the great thing about it is that the white part of these cameras, oops, sorry,
I was gonna say, is
the
that a
white part of
light?
the white part of these cameras have an embedded LED array in them. And
Nice.
so that's actually illuminating my face a bit. So instead of, having the office setup where you have the ring light in the corner,
Hmm.
microphone separate, everything is included within this video bar. And this video bar is so small. I think it's one of the smaller ones in the market right now. I think it's a little bit smaller than the Logic Rally. But man, I could throw this in my backpack. I like when I came downstairs to work out of my living room. I was able to just grab it, come downstairs, set it up, and be done. Less than 5 minutes. I've It's dynamic in the sense that you could mount it on top of a TV, below a TV, on a wall. But the great thing about it is that the mic array on there picks you up about 15 feet away. And so it's pretty powerful. Voice tracking capabilities, automatic framing capabilities, all the kind of stuff that you would want for conference room environments. I think right now I'm using the audio fence mode, and
Oh,
so my family's walking around, and I know they've been making a little bit of noise, but I don't
I
think you
haven't
guys have
heard
been able to
anything.
hear them because outside of my if I don't press any muting or anything like that, if I continue talking, I start counting 1, 2, 3, 4.
Wow, it totally cut off at four. It didn't get quieter at four. It cut off at four.
Yeah, exactly, because there's some dedicated mics that are going, outside of that, outside of my little frame area here.
See,
So
before the pandemic, that kind of feature, I would have said that's really impressive. But I think that's a demo feature. That's something you show off at the trade shows because it's really cool. But at the office, most of the time we shut the door. We're in our meeting rooms. I mean, yes, I'm not saying it would never be useful, but in the office, but now at home, everyone needs this. Everyone has a barking dog. Everyone has a crying kid. Everyone has air conditioner noise and washing machines, and homes are a lot
leaf
noisier than
blowers
the
are really
office.
powerful.
Oh yeah, I
I
have a
think
window
leaf
right on the other
blowers are
side of this
probably one of the
camera.
most. Yeah, leaf blowers are probably one of the most powerful devices out there for generating noise.
So
I
loud.
mean,
And
it can't it doesn't have to be your gardener or you leaf blowing. Just like two or three houses down, you could hear that.
yeah.
And so yeah, it's been a lifesaver for me.
And now for, every meeting, you have the meeting at the office of the two or three people in the meeting room and three or four people calling in remotely. So it's multiply that problem times four. Everyone calling remotely could be disturbing the meeting with all of their noise. So all this noise reduction stuff, which before I was like, that's really cool from a technology point of view, but whatever. Now I'm like, oh my God, we need that. Sign me up on that one.
No, exactly, exactly. So we did come out with those two devices. But if you look at our whole product line, if you go to our website, averyusa.com, you'll see that we did come out with some newer models for our large conference rooms, and they're very similar to the ones that we had out before. Same idea actually. What we did and what we found out, well, with this pandemic, before we were doing camera track or automatic framing based upon facial recognition. And so, or I should say facial detection. And what it was trying to detect for were two eyes, a nose, a mouth, and an ear. And that would actually, be pretty successful. And we were able to frame people up. What we noticed was people walking into a conference room with a mask on.
I was gonna say.
Oh man! And I think some other vendors had some issues like that. So we pivoted pretty quickly, and we came out with a new line of product that did more body detection. But when we did that, we actually implemented some small camera tracking capabilities, and so it's geared towards a conference room. So with those ones, it's got a 18 times zoom, 18 times zoom, 12 times optical zoom. But that one, single person in the conference room, it'll frame you up to 10 meters away and at a 99% success rate, but it'll follow you along the room as well. And so,
Nice.
those are the types of things where, the pandemic hit, it hindered us a little bit, but we're able to quickly pivot. And I think now, as people are starting to open up the offices and move around, open up the conference rooms a bit, and only one person might be in there. I think our cameras will do a great job to frame the person up, track it, have them walk around, but not have them touch so many things inside the conference room that they don't need to.
And the auto framing is something I'd like to emphasize. I think a lot of people, when they hear about that, they say they don't think it's a big deal because they say, well, I'm not going to be walking around during my meeting. It's great for a professor. Professor is up at the blackboard and she's writing the chemistry equation or whatever she's doing up there. And as she walks back and forth, the camera tracks the professor. That makes sense. But I'm not a professor. I'm sitting at my desk. We still need it, not for the tracking, but for the framing. A lot of people just get a camera, put the camera up on top of their, a monitor, turn it on, and wherever it puts them. And they're all the way at the corner. They're too big. They're too small. We want to be framed nicely in the middle, like a newscaster. It really makes a good look. It's just what we're used to seeing, what we expect to see. It's what we saw on TV from newscasters growing up, and what we expect to see in a meeting. And if it's auto framing, everyone's going to just look perfect all the time, even if they don't know what they're doing. So I'm a big fan of auto framing, and I think a lot of people don't get that because they think of auto tracking, which is also good and important, but auto framing is for everyone.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's why I said this was more geared towards conference rooms, because if another person walks in that room, that's when it goes into a true framing mode and it stops tracking that one person that was in there.
Yep, it has to reframe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and without it automatically doing it, it just wouldn't do it.
Exactly.
In the old days, we'd be in a meeting, we'd say, Sarah just walked in the room. She's not on camera, but Sarah, say hi. Sarah's here. Right? How many times did we do that? And now Sarah walks in the room and the camera, just like a normal being, you normal human being, you'd look over at her, the camera looks over.
Oh yeah.
One other thing I want to make a point of is the lights. The lights around your cameras. That's not just a marketing gimmick. That's not just a nice to have. Lighting is so important for video, and it's the last thing. We get a good computer to support it. We get a good camera. We get a good service, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, whatever we're using, and get good headsets. We get good microphones. The very last thing we think of is lighting, and that makes such a difference. When the pandemic started, my extended family did a big Zoom meeting, just kind of one of those, get everyone in Zoom to say hi to each other, all the cousins and nephews and nieces and everything. And all my cousins called me up afterwards, said, my wife's giving me a hard time. They say, why don't I look good like cousin David? You look so good on camera. And I look like a slob. And I said, it's just lighting. They said, you look like it. You look like you should be a newscaster or something. What kind of camera are you using? Like, I'm probably using the same webcam you're all using. It's lighting. So having the lighting right on the camera, a lot of people are going to look a lot more attractive.
No, it does make a huge difference. And, I mean, because you go between the warm light and the cool light. And that's one thing our camera does, is that it does with the LED array. You can change it to go with the yellow warm lighting type scenarios if that's what you have in your environment. But and the cool lighting as well. But when you start bringing in daylight and everything looks great, you set up, you're good to go, for your interview or whatever you're going to do. And then, a couple of hours later, you come back and you're like, oh, the sun's gone. Oh man, I don't have the same lights anymore.
Yeah.
It does help to get some kind of light on your face. Especially, the angle of the lighting too. Because like you're saying, the chandelier that I'm working with right now behind me is kind of facing down towards me. I've been in scenarios where the light's been behind me, and that's where it casts shadow on your face.
Oh yeah.
And so having something to actually illuminate your face from the angle of the lens helps out a lot, but then doesn't drown out the natural light coming into the lens too. So it's when you first come out with the idea of building a light around the camera, you're like, yeah, it's going to be great. But then when the engineers tell you, hey, it's kind of tough, much respect to the guys in the R&D group that kind of built this out, because they did a great job.
Yeah, but that is where you want it, and it is hard to do because I when I first started setting up my lighting, I tried putting a light right behind the camera, but it was a regular light. It was too bright. I couldn't look at the camera. So then I got those box photographer lights, those big things you see at the photo shoots
with the diffusers.
And I had one here. So then this side of my face was with the big thing over it was so now I have two of them. And I'm able to justify it. I'm a professional streamer, and they weren't that expensive, but it takes up half of my office. Most people do not want these giant photographer, big, huge box thing, and two of them, just so I could be evenly lit. Most people won't want to do all that and don't need all that. But just having one light right in front of you that gets you, that'll do the job.
Yep.
As long as it's not behind you. I always use the analogy when people are like, people who are totally new, how do I do lighting? And I say, think of you're the the how do I do this? The light is the sun, and you're the moon, and the camera is the earth. So how do you see the moon? When the sun is behind the earth, when the sun is behind the camera, you can see the moon. What happens when the sun goes behind the moon? You get an eclipse, right? You get an eclipse. Yep. You can't see anything, and people are literally eclipsing themselves. They're having They're setting up their home offices with windows behind them, and they have the sunlight coming in, and all you see is bright sunlight and a shadow, and it's like, gotta get that light in front of you. So putting it on the camera, there you go.
Yeah, it's kind of like when the news wanted to hide the identity of whoever they're interviewing. They would, just put them in front of the window and turn off the lights behind it and let the natural light come in. And
that's literally how you hide someone's face. So yeah, we don't want to be doing that in our video meetings.
Exactly.
So where can people learn more about these cameras and everything AVer does?
Well, AVerusa.com is the website we could go to get a lot of product information on there. Feel free to contact us. And, if you ever need to check out our products, we'll be more than happy to demo one out for you or get one sent out to you so you could try to kick the tires on it and see if it works for you. Because, every environment's different. And so that's where, you would have to, if you want it for your conference rooms, between the video bars that we have and the cameras that we have, we realize, being able to install them within a room and see how it goes for a proof of concept is really an important thing. So we work pretty well with that.
Yeah, and that's something that I can attest. Carl's not just saying that's really been part of AVer's methodology for years now. It's really hard to explain to someone what their camera experience is going to be like. So you guys just have the most incredibly liberal policy of try it out. We'll send you it. Give us your address. We'll send you a camera. Try it. I'll let you know. We'll make it easy on you. And and it's he's not just saying that, they really they're very cool about that, and that really is the right way to do it, because you kind of got to see to believe. You kind of got to get your hands on it. You got to make sure the camera works the way you want to work. And there are a lot of options out there, and you don't want to just buy something based on a website and get buyer's remorse. So don't be shy and say, yeah, send me some of those cameras. I want to try them out. No risk.
Thank you.
All right. And I think, hey, that was a great conversation. I know it's Friday. You probably want to get going. I think I want to get maybe want to get a real one of these, or at least a real one of these.
I was going to say, I mean, I think you gave us or me and my wife have a good idea to go out and have some sushi and cocktails.
Right. Thanks so much for being here. Always great to chat with you.
All right, no worries. Thanks, eh?
Thanks so much for all of our viewers, and we'll see you next week.